Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm fine, thanks.
My name is Gary Witkowski, and I'm with the Environmental Protection Agency. We're here to do a hazardous waste, a air, and a water inspection at your university today. I believe I need to speak to a Mr. Trevor Urban.
Do you have an appointment?
No, I'm afraid not. Our inspections are all unannounced.
If you can have a seat, I'll give him a call.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Urban?
Yeah.
I'm Gary Witkowski with the Environmental Protection Agency. We're here at your university today. We're going to be doing a multimedia inspection at your facility. I'm going to be doing a hazardous waste inspection. This is Mr. Pete Fulweiler of EPA. He's going to be doing an air inspection. And this is Mr. Pete Green from the EPA. He's going to be doing a water inspection at your facility. Is there someplace we can go and sit down and talk?
Yeah, do you know how long it's going to take, maybe?
It could take quite a while. I have no idea how long it's going to take. It'll all depend on what we find or maybe what we don't find.
Okay, I think, is this office open here? All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Right here.
Yes, Mr. Urban, as I said, we are here to do a multimedia inspection at your facility. We're going to look at three primary areas: your generation of hazardous waste, how you manage it and store it on site, if you do any treatment or anything like that. And then Mr. Fulweiler is going to be have some air issues he's going to want to talk about. And Mr. Green is going to have water issues that he will want to talk about. It may be that you may have other people at the facility that may have information that those gentlemen will need, and we can work together.
I'm the facilities manager, and I do, your general maintenance and all that stuff, but we don't really have a lot of hazardous waste here where I'm working. I could probably, we got paint and varnishes and do a little general maintenance around the grounds, but.
Okay, well, we'll get into that, and it may be that we will have to talk to some other people that may have knowledge of waste that are generated at other areas on campus, okay? But we'll get into that. First of all, before we even get started, I have to show you my credentials so that you can see I am an employee of EPA, and also Mr. Fulweiler and Mr. Green will show you there so that you can see we are employees of EPA.
So where are you guys out of?
We're out of Kansas City.
I saw you earlier.
Okay, and this is just a normal compliance inspection. This is a routine inspection that we do at facilities. It's not due to any complaints against your university or anything like this. This is a routine inspection, okay? Everything we talk about, which would be the waste you generate and the air issues and the water issues, will go into our report. We may get copies of documents. We may take photos. Those will also go in our report. And this report is available to anyone through the Freedom of Information Act. And EPA would supply any information if anyone requested, unless there are portions that are considered confidential business information. And you, as a generator or as a business, do have rights to claim confidential business information. What I'm going to ask you to read is the EPA confidentiality notice here. It states your rights to claim confidential business information, and it gives the three criteria that EPA says an item must meet, and must meet all three before they would substantiate a claim of confidentiality. Now, I'm not going to ask you to sign it now because you don't know what we're going to talk about. You don't know what documents we may get or what photos we may take. But I want you to have this information in your mind as we're doing the inspection. I would also like you to make sure that I have the name of the facility and the address correct on the top. So if you'd please read that. If you have any questions as you're reading that, please feel free to ask.
Yeah, I don't know of any confidential stuff, but
Okay.
like I said, we don't generate a lot of waste here.
No problem, no problem. Like I said, at the end of the inspection, we'll go through that form again and give you the opportunity to either make or not make a claim of confidentiality. One other item we ask everyone to read before we get started is the paragraph I have highlighted in yellow. It's U.S. Code 1001, which is concerning giving false statements to federal inspectors. Okay. We are here under what's known as Section 3007 of the Hazardous Waste Disposal Act, and that's the section that gives EPA the authority to come into facilities we either know or suspect generate hazardous waste or any other waste and conduct inspections under normal business hours. I have a copy of that if you'd like to look at it. If not, that's fine. Okay. The way I like to run an inspection, just to kind of give you a thumbnail sketch, is we have this entry briefing, which we've been doing. Then we will talk about the waste that you generate at your facility and also get general information about the facility, how long it's been here, what kind of college it is, the different departments on the college, things of that nature. Also, Mr. Fullweiler and Mr. Green may have questions along those lines too. Then after we discuss the waste that you generate, we'll give an idea of kind of the records we'll want to look at. At that time, we may tend to split up a little bit. I may look at records while you may take some of them out in their separate areas. But I'll also want to go out to the areas that generate hazardous waste at your facility or manage hazardous waste. This would be storage areas, satellite areas, if you do any treatment or disposal on site, anything like that. And this is where you may have to find people for us to talk to. Do you have is there a chemistry department on campus?
Yeah, there's.
Okay, they'll generate some kind of hazardous waste as a rule. So we'll need to go there and talk to the people there. Do you have a biology department on campus?
Yeah, I don't know a lot about that. I do.
Do you know someone we could talk to in that area?
Yeah, probably.
That's fine, then we could go over there. Do you have a pharmacy school? Or a dental college, or a
We have
medical?
Pharmacy, but not dental.
Okay. Pharmacy, again, try to talk to someone over there that knows about the waste that are generated at that facility. Have an art department.
Yeah.
Again, another area I'd like to go to. Naturally, your area, because you said you do painting and work on maintenance of vehicles, is that correct?
Yeah.
And so I suppose you have used oil and parts washing units, things
Yeah.
like that?
We have one part.
So we'll want to go to those areas and see where how your wastes are managed and how they're stored and things of that nature. So any of these types of areas, this is where we want to go to on campus. And you may even think of some other areas as we're going around. You know, what other colleges might generate some waste. Okay? So with that, basically now what I'd like to do is just get some general information about the facility, and then we can talk about your waste streams from there.
Okay.
Like Gary said, I'm here for the NPDES wastewater discharge inspection. Specifically, I understand you have a steam electric power generating station on campus.
Yeah, it's one of our projects we have here. We got a permit for that though through the city, so.
Okay. Well, I'll need to, first of all, get in my sampler so I can begin to get a 24-hour composite sample of the effluent wastewater from the power station. I will be monitoring that for to verify compliance with your NPDES permit limits. After I get that done, we can come back and after Gary's finished, who's in charge of the power plant?
Well, I pretty much, you know, it's pretty simple. We've got a professor in charge of it, but I've got to make sure that everything's going okay, and the city contacts me when they come out, and I show them, and they do what they need to do, and they move on.
Okay. Well, then you're the
They tell me
probably,
what they want, and I just take them and let them in the gates. They're locked, and I got the keys to them.
okay. Then I'll need to complete my operation and maintenance checklist on the power plant with you, sit down with you at some point and do that. In addition to a walkthrough inspection of the plant and the wastewater outfall and the flow measurement devices. Also, if you can get your records together for sampling and monitoring of the wastewater.
Yeah, I have another guy does that. I'll have to get a hold of him to get that
Okay.
information. I just I've got control, you know, kind of the maintenance side of it, but the technical side of it, somebody else does.
Okay, if we can get them together also. Do you have a sewage treatment plant on the campus?
No, we discharge to the POTW.
Okay.
The city, I guess, it goes to the city.
What about the agricultural research department? Do they keep livestock?
Yes.
Do you know whether or not they confine 1,000 beef cattle for 45 days in any 12-month period?
I don't know. They've got a little operation going on the northwest side of campus. We'd have to check.
Okay.
I don't know for sure.
If I can get together with the person responsible for that site, we need to verify whether or not that is defined as a point source confined animal feeding operation under the Clean Water Act?
Okay.
And if so, I'll need to do a walkthrough inspection of that facility for compliance with best management practices, and also do a records review at the site, and look over the land application records for manure, and any inspection documentation they have.
I don't know a lot about that. I do the maintenance side of it, and they kind of run their own facilities over there. So, but I'll get the right people. We'll go over and take a look.
Okay. On the steam electric power, this is one of the sectors that's also required to be covered under the stormwater Phase 1 regulations. So you should have an NPDES permit. Do you know if you do?
I believe we do, yeah.
Okay.
I've seen that, and like I said, one of the departments runs it, but I still got to maintain certain parts of it, so I got to go. I've got the keys to the locks, and we kind of do it cooperatively.
Do you have the stormwater pollution prevention plan?
No, they'd have it over there.
Okay. I'll need to get a copy of that, look it over. And also, documentation that I'll need from them is inspection records for the best management practices, the pollution prevention plan.
Now, what is it again? Inspection record? What?
For implementation of the best management practices in the stormwater pollution prevention plan.
You want that right now, or should I?
As early as you can.
Okay.
You can gather that. I know you got a lot of things on your list. We'll work it in. As long as I'm on the subject of stormwater, there are two other areas that colleges can conceivably be covered under that. One is transportation. You mentioned you had a vehicle maintenance shop. Most colleges have a primary SIC code of beginning with 82, and they're therefore exempt from having a stormwater permit required for that facility. However, I would like to take a look at the facility to verify whether there are stormwater contamination prevention controls in place.
Well, I know in our shop where we do our maintenance, we've got a little oil water separator for whatever discharges out, but all we do is just little maintenance stuff, change the oil, that kind of stuff, fix tires. It's not a big major thing on our fleet.
Okay. How about any construction sites on the campus that are disturbing soil over an area of 5 acres?
Any construction stuff, if it's not already in place, and it's not mine yet, it's somebody else is taking care of that. But I don't think we've got any new buildings going up right now that I'm aware of.
Okay. Very good.
Again, Mr. Urban, my name's Pete Fullweiler, and I'm going to be doing the air portion of this inspection. What we're basically going to be looking for is your compliance with your state operating and construction permits, whatever those you have. Need to get those out and have a look at them. We're going to want to look at your power generation station. I understand you have steam. Is it coal-fired or natural gas, or do you have both? Or?
Natural gas.
Okay. We'll need to look at the records for that, the size, date of installation, fuel usage records for that. Fuel storage for that unit. Does it have oil backup, or is it natural gas alone?
It's just natural gas.
Okay. Do you operate any incinerators at the university?
Yeah, we do. We do have one incinerator.
Okay, we'll look at those. Backup power generation stations, internal combustion engines.
Yeah, we do have a diesel power generation.
Okay, we'll look and see if you have any permit requirements for those. Other items we need to look at is how you manage your CFCs or chlorofluorocarbons refrigeration units. who takes care of those, if it's in-house, contracted out?
Yeah, we have some buildings that we take care of, and then some of the newer buildings, they're still under warranty. That's contracted out. So kind of a little both.
Okay, yeah, we'll need to look at the records of your staff who does the work on them, make sure they're certified, look at leak rates for the work you've done on those, and get some idea of what kind of air conditioning units you've got. Do you do any dry cleaning on site?
No, we have all of our clothes are taken off site by a launderer, their laundry facility. We just change them in and out, my employees throw in their dirty ones, they bring us new ones.
Okay. Do you have the medical school here? Do you have a medical school?
No.
Okay.
We have pharmacy school and, of course, chemistry and biology, that kind of thing.
Where I'd be looking at there is any ethylene oxide sterilization units that you might operate in
I'm not sure if they've got anything in that
the
over
hospital. Okay.
pharmacy school or not.
Okay. In any of do you have labs or shops that do any painting, surface coating of any kind?
We paint here, and we'll paint some cabinets, and we'll paint, redo rooms and offices, and paint that stuff, so,
So it's maintenance type of painting,
yeah.
no production type of painting, or any programs that make furniture? Or,
Not to my knowledge.
okay. Asbestos. How do you manage asbestos on campus?
Oh, several years ago, we had a whole bunch of people came through and took a look at what was considered to be asbestos, and we cleaned it out, and supposedly we're not supposed to have any asbestos anymore here at the college.
Okay, you're in charge of that then? And,
Yeah,
okay.
that was right when I came on, but they came through and looked at everything and gave us a clean bill of health on that. They took care of what they needed to take care of.
Okay. Yeah, so for the most part, I guess it'll be your electric generating, steam generating station that I'll be looking at. So we'll need to get whoever's in charge of that area and get the records out and look at the permit requirements. And look at your other smaller power generation, backup generation. Look at your air conditioning records, and that will include any kind of vehicle maintenance you might do if you do any air conditioning maintenance on vehicles.
No, we don't do any of that.
Okay.
That all goes, somebody else does that.
Okay, well, those will be the items I'll be looking at during this thing.
This is Dan. He's a graduate student here in the chemistry lab, and he takes care of all the goings on here in the lab, and he knows a lot more about it than I do. This is Gary with EPA. He's got some questions. They're doing a hazardous waste audit or inspection, and I'll leave you with him.
Thank you.
And hopefully he can answer your questions.
Okay, great.
Right. Nice
Dan,
to meet
glad
you.
to meet you.
Yeah.
Before we get started, I'd like to have you read this paragraph I have highlighted in yellow. It's concerning giving false statements to federal inspectors.
Okay. There we go.
I'm here at the university doing a hazardous waste inspection, and I'm going to all the departments that we feel may generate hazardous waste. And as a rule, chemistry departments do generate hazardous
Yeah,
waste.
I guess we probably do.
That's correct. So could you kind of give me an idea of the kind of waste you generate here at the chemistry department?
Yeah, generally it's a lot of acid waste. For a lot of the different experiments, they use it to dissolve like the metals and things like that. Sometimes we have a little bit of mercury waste in with the acids, depending what we're testing for. Usually it's nitric acid and sulfuric acid mainly.
Is this mostly from like student classes, things like that?
Yeah, generally we'll probably have about 20 to 30 per class, and we'll probably have somewhere between 1 and 2 liters at the end of each class left over, which is
end of
waste
each
material.
day?
We do labs on Tuesdays and Thursdays generally.
So maybe a liter at the
Probably
end
about-
of each Tuesday and Thursday?
Sometimes we'll have 3 classes, up to about 2 to 3 liters a day.
Okay.
Or that's probably about 6 per week or so.
Any research projects going on at the university that you know, in the chemistry department too? that
Yeah,
they generate
some of
waste?
them, they're really small amounts, and we don't really keep a whole lot of, keep track of them too much until we have enough that we think is significant usually. And that's usually, we don't have anything major, just a lot of just organic solvents and things like that.
Okay. How are the wastes usually managed in the lab, such as like this one here?
Well, usually we have some small satellite containers that usually just accumulate over a couple of weeks or so, and if we have a larger waste stream, we'll use our big containers like this one right here.
That's a satellite container?
Yeah, generally fill it when that one's done. We take it out back to the storage shed and we keep it there until we ship it off.
Okay, how long does it take to fill that? But on an average, how long would it take to fill that container?
That one probably about 3 or 4 months.
3 or 4 months?
Usually about that long.
Do you have large containers in most of the student labs?
Well, usually for the general classes we do. For the ones like organic, we have more solvent type things. We don't have as much of those. But this is probably the one we use the most of.
Okay, when was this container started, do you know?
Actually, that's just a couple days ago they brought that one in for us.
Okay. I just noticed that there's no hazardous waste label on the, or no
Yeah, we probably haven't gotten around to putting that on yet. We have to make sure and know exactly what's going to be going into that, so we'll wait until we know.
But I noticed it looks like it's about, a little bit less than a third full, and it does have hazardous waste, is it, in it?
Yeah, it does. Probably acid waste.
Acid waste, okay. So, you know it should be labeled just as soon as you get waste into the container.
Yeah, we'll probably have it done by the end of the day, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Do you keep any waste underneath your fume hoods?
Here we have a container for permanganate waste. Usually we use that in the metals digestions. It's one of the solutions we use.
Is that common waste that you'll generate in this lab?
It's usually smaller amounts than our acid. We just use the small container. As you can see, that's probably about 2 liters.
Right.
But that one doesn't get emptied near as often as the other ones. We just not a very heavy waste stream actually.
So when that's full, then that's taken down to the storage area also?
Yes.
How long would it take to fill something like that?
Usually we do it like every semester, so it'd probably be about 4 or 5, maybe 6 months.
Okay.
Depending.
Okay, great. Any other waste that you know of that you keep here in the lab?
Well, this lab we don't have anything else, but we do have in our organics lab we have more solvent waste like hexane and methylene chloride, things like that. The things that we don't recycle, we usually have to send those out.
Okay, so you do some recycling on some of your chemicals?
Some of them, yeah. We'll distill them and we'll get recapture as much as we can. But some things it's just we're not able to do that with.
Understand. So you don't have any old waste under any of the counters here or anything like this?
Well, there is one container that's been here for quite a while. I actually am kind of afraid to go in there. I don't know exactly what they have.
Could you show me where it's at?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. So is this the cupboard then where the waste?
Yeah, this is where they. I don't know exactly what all's in here. We probably got quite a bit of different stuff.
Does that danger acid mean anything, or is that what's in here?
I'm
Acids?
sure
or-
there's some acids. I'm not exactly sure though.
Okay. So are all these items waste?
Yeah, this is probably where they dump all the stuff, like things from different research projects. So probably some of the smaller bottles
Okay.
from that.
Do the labels on the bottles, are they indicative of what the items are inside?
More likely not than actually, because probably a lot of people just take an empty bottle and just put their waste in there and set it in here.
I noticed a lot of them
Sometimes
are
they'll
unlabeled.
write labels, but sometimes they'll forget to, I guess.
I noticed a lot of them were unlabeled too.
Oh, I didn't notice that. Yeah, I mean, this stuff's been here forever. I mean, probably about 5 or 6 years at least.
Have you made any hazardous waste determinations on this material at all?
I mean, we keep meaning to get to it, but you know how that goes.
I
Someone
see.
just puts it off and says, well, we'll do that next semester.
Okay, well, I'm going to take an inventory of all the items you have in here and the estimated quantities, and we'll take some photos of it, okay?
Okay.
Okay, I'm Gary Witkowski with the EPA. I understand that you are in charge of all the storage area here for the hazardous waste that's generated on the campus.
Yes, I am.
And that would be like from the pharmacy college and all the
All of
different
them.
colleges on the
Right.
campus? Okay. When a lab gets a satellite container full, do they contact you and do your people go pick it up, or how does that work?
Yes, they do. Normally, that's the way it is unless it's after hours and they need to bring it in themselves. But then they're supposed to leave me notification that it has been brought in.
Who dates the containers then when they come in? Is it
One of my people in our section.
so if they would bring something in after hours and you would date it the next day, or how does
Yes,
that work?
that's the way it's supposed to work.
It's supposed to work, doesn't always work that way, or?
Well, we try, but I can't always be assured that that's the way it happens.
I understand, I understand. So is all this, the hazardous waste you've been picking up lately?
Well, all of it except the ice chests.
What are those?
They're empty ice chests that have had hazardous waste in them, and we just closed them up and kept them in here.
Okay. How often do you send waste off-site?
When it gets full and there's no room to put anything else.
And how long does that usually take?
Anywhere from 9 months to a year.
Oh, okay. Okay. Do you do any treatment or disposal of any of the
not
hazardous
on-
waste on site?
Not on this site, no.
Oh, okay. Let me take a look at these. Notice you've got a container here that's dated 2/26 of 2000. Has that been here that long?
Well, apparently it has.
Have you had a shipment since then or not?
Well, we might have. We might have just kind of missed that one since it's sitting in the corner.
Okay, okay. How often is the area inspected?
Well, there's somebody in this area, maybe once or twice a week they come in.
But is that just to work in here, or is there somebody designated to come in and actually check the containers over?
No, we kind of ask people who come in to kind of look around and make sure that.
But
things are-
nobody specifically to check if they're leaking or anything like that? I mean, I noticed they're on nice containment pads, but I mean, they could still leak.
Well, yeah, I suppose they could, but we just kind of look at it when we walk in. See if-
Okay, okay. Where's the closest telephone to your storage room here?
Right outside the door.
Right outside the door? Okay. Do people tend to work in pairs when they're in here, or is there somebody outside when somebody's in here? So they're always in contact, so something should happen.
It depends on what they're doing. If they're pouring up the solvent, they're supposed to have a spotter within reasonable distance. But if there's nobody available and there's a small amount, we might go ahead and pour without a spotter.
Okay. Where's your spill control equipment located for the room here?
It's up the center hall about halfway.
Okay. And what does that consist of?
Oh, there's mops and buckets, and there's acid neutralization, and there's all kinds of sponges, and there's gloves and boots, and
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate your
Thank
help.
Dan, now that Gary's done with you, I wanted to ask you a few questions about how you dispose of wastewater in the laboratory with the student labs and so forth. Do you have any floor drains in the lab?
We do. We have them underneath of our safety showers over. We have them in the hallway. We have one down right outside this door, and there's another one down the end of the hall.
Okay.
But usually we don't have anything going down them. I don't think we've had any spills. So.
I think I'll mention to Trevor that I recommend that those be sealed off. I know you need to use them for shower testing, and that makes it more difficult, but they can be uncovered for that purpose. What
Okay.
about the fume hoods? Do you have any the cup sinks and the fume hoods?
Some of the older hoods I think have them, but usually we don't use it at all. Not
Okay.
that I'm aware of anyway. Maybe sometimes they'll use them for cooling and distillation apparatus or something like that. But
Do they
very
have barriers around the sink to prevent spills from going into the sewer?
I don't think they do.
Okay.
I think they're all just open.
Thing I'd recommend again to Trevor, whoever, you can build a little dike around those with an inert caulking material,
Okay.
just to
Yeah.
protect the sewer system. Now, what goes down the sink when the students are working in the laboratory?
Well, a lot of times if they have like a weaker acid, we'll neutralize that with either a little bit of base, mix some acids and bases together, or we use a little bit of sodium bicarbonate to bring the acids down a little bit, or bring them up in a little pH.
Okay.
And generally we don't let them go down the drain unless they're between 6 and 8 on the pH scale.
Is that one of the orientation steps in at the beginning of chemistry lab?
Yeah, at the beginning
or-
of every semester, we let the students know. We go through a safety training class, kind of about 2 hours long. We tell them, don't dump this down the sink, make sure you follow the instructions, things like that. But that's usually covered.
Okay. I noticed you said that you do recycle some solvents,
Yeah.
distill some solvents. Do you have any other pollution prevention practices that you've introduced in the laboratory?
We've actually scaled down some of our experiments. They used to produce a little
Okay.
bit more waste, but what we did, we do it on a smaller scale, and that saves us money too. That was one of the main reasons. But yeah, we do end up having a lot less waste that way.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, Mr. Urban, when we drove up, I noticed some emissions coming from that stack. You see the one on top there, on top of the brown part of the roof there?
Yeah.
Do you know what that is?
No, I'm not sure. You know, I'm sure they're fume hoods, or they might even be the furnace stack. I'm not sure.
In your state operating permit, it requires that you keep records of visible emissions from various areas in your plant. You got that, your facility here, you got that figured out?
Records?
Records.
I don't know. I'd have to call if you. I'm not aware of any records I need to keep. Emissions?
Visible emissions. Okay, do you have a certified observer on staff to look at emissions?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Okay, also as part of that, you have to monitor emissions of dust from your property. We were out by the stockyards. There's some dust and trucks out there. Does you have anybody doing that monitoring? Or?
No, I don't think so. I wasn't aware of that. I didn't know we had to look at that.
Okay, we'll look at that in your permit when we get back in and go over it and
Okay.
see what you need to be doing.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, Mr. Urban, we reviewed the records on your boiler. It is subject to Subpart DC, New Source Performance Standards, and that requires you to keep fuel usage records and a record of the sulfur content. We were able to get the fuel usage records, so I'll need to have you find a record of the sulfur content of the fuel. Send it to me.
Okay. Sulfur content.
And that's typically something from your fuel supplier. That's pretty common that they'll have that. We just need to make sure you got that.
Okay.
The other items are in your new operating permit is having a record of visible emissions from whatever in your facility here that you've got visible emissions. So you need to review the requirements in that, get somebody on board to do those monthly observations and keep records of them.
Now, can I do that myself, or do I got to hire somebody to do that, or how does that?
You can do it yourself. You would have to be certified to do Method 9 visible emissions readings. The city, the states, and some private people put those classes on.
Okay.
Or have it done by somebody who is certified.
Okay.
And that's all I've got for you.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Trevor, there's something that came up while we were walking past the vehicle maintenance facility that I intended to ask about earlier, but I noticed about a 1,000-gallon tank out there. I wondered what that tank contained.
It's just fuel for our equipment and just gasoline, that kind of thing for our cars and forklifts and for our maintenance vehicles, that kind of thing.
Do you have a spill prevention countermeasure and control plan, or a SPCC plan for that tank?
Well, I recall we have something like that. I'd have to find. I think so. What is exactly addressed?
Secondary containment and prevention of, in the event of the release of the contents of that tank, to prevent the contents from contaminating waters of the United States.
I think we have something like that. I'll have to find it though. I'm almost sure we do though.
Okay, I appreciate that, if I could see a copy of that. But other than that, I will be getting my samples results back from the effluent sampling at the power plant sometime in the next 30 days, and then we'll know whether you passed the test for the numerical limits. In reviewing the records for the power plant effluent with the operator over there, there was one month where the suspended solids was slightly out of compliance, and he said that they were having some operational problems that month, and it seemed to be an isolated incident. So that's something that I would say you should certainly be aware of and stay on top of in order to avoid not getting on our significant non-compliance list in the future. While we were in the laboratory, I was speaking with the graduate student, Dan, and he had pointed out some floor drains over there that could be a problem if there were a spill of some hazardous waste. Conceivably, they could reach the floor drain and go to the treatment plant. So my recommendation would be to seal off those drains and to put some type of a barrier around the fume hood cup sinks as well.
How, well, you mean seal off, you mean, how would I do that? Pump grout in them or what?
That's one way to do it. I would probably talk to your physical plant maintenance people for any ideas they can come up with for either temporary or permanent
Okay.
protection.
You took samples. What are you looking for in your samples?
Well, your NPDES permit has numerical limits for oil and grease, suspended solids, zinc, chromium, iron, and I will be monitoring those samples for those parameters to compare with your permit limits. Okay. That's all I have on my observations. So,
Well, Mr. Urban, after doing the visual inspection and doing the records review of your manifest and a lot of your MSDS sheets and also of some of the waste determinations that were made on your university, I've inspected you as a small quantity generator of hazardous waste, and that's a generator who generates between 100 and 1,000 kilograms of hazardous waste in a month.
I thought we were a conditionally exempt generator. I don't think in my shop we generate.
Okay, that tends to be the problem. The waste that you generate and your hazardous waste generation rate is for the entire campus. It's not for just one small area. So if you are the actual facility contact, you need to be aware of the waste that are generated on your entire campus and the amounts that are generated. You may not have to be personally involved, but you need to know, because here you were thinking you were conditionally exempt, but in reality, because of all the waste that are generated at the pharmacy college, the art school, the biology department, the chemistry department, you've actually jumped to a small quantity generator, and you need to be in compliance with those requirements, those regulations, and that's how I've inspected you. And because of that, I do have some violations for you.
Now, I don't have any control over the other departments.
No,
right?
you don't. I understand that. But you have control over the notification as to what size generator you are, and if you are the facility contact, it should be your responsibility to make sure, no matter what size generator you are, that you are in compliance with the proper regulations. Okay? So before I get into the violations, I do have a few pieces of paperwork I need to show you and ask you to sign. The first one here is called a receipt for documents and samples form. As you can see, I've listed all the documents that you've given me copies. It also states on there that no samples were taken at this time. RCRA samples were taken. Now, water has taken some samples, but the hazardous waste, I did not take any samples. If you agree with that, I'm going to ask that you print your name and sign at the bottom. I'll sign and date it and give you the original so you have a copy for your records so that you know what I took from your facility. Okay. Next item I have for you is the confidentiality notice. Now you know what we've talked about. You know what copies of documents I've gotten from you. You know what photos I've taken during the inspection. Now you can either make or not make a claim of confidentiality. If you don't want to make a claim, you need to sign the top box which states you're not making a claim at this time. And the reason it's worded that way is it still gives you a chance at a later date, maybe say tomorrow you talk to the legal counsel at the university and they feel that maybe you should have made a claim on a certain document. You can still respond to this and make a claim of confidentiality.
Okay.
But if you are going to make a claim at this time, you need to sign the second box which states you're making a claim and then list at the bottom the items that you're making a claim on.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything that you took as
Okay, so-
confidential, so this box here?
Yes, that one. And again, you get the original for your records. The last item I have here is called a notice of violation. And these are the items that I feel you, as a facility, are not in compliance with the regulations. And again, I want to emphasize that I did inspect you as a small quantity generator, a generator who generates between 100 and 1,000 kilograms of hazardous waste per month. I'll go over the violations with you. If you have any questions, we can talk about them. Then when we're through, I'll explain the procedures you need to follow to respond to this. On the left of each violation is noted where you can find the violation in the federal regulations. I'm not going to go over each of those, but you can find those. The first one is the fact that you do not have a satellite accumulation container labeled either hazardous waste or with its contents. There was one 55-gallon satellite container of hazardous waste in the lab that we inspected. It hadn't been labeled yet. It had been there a few days, hadn't been labeled. They need to be labeled as soon as waste goes into the container.
Now, I don't run that operation.
And that person isn't here, but I think you need to get this information back to the people that it's affecting, okay? Because I'm going to be citing violations that for all over the campus, not just necessarily the area that you are familiar with, okay? The second item here is storing hazardous waste greater than 180 days without a permit. The storage area that Kay runs, that is a storage area for the entire campus, had one container that was dated December of 2000. As a small quantity generator, you can only store hazardous waste 180 days, or if you have to ship it over 200 miles to a disposal facility, you can store it up to 270 days. This container was well in excess of either one of those time limits.
But you understand, I was operating as a conditionally exempt.
I understand that, but you were under that impression, but you really are not a conditionally exempt. Also for that same area, failure to do weekly container storage inspections. When I asked Kay if when the containers were, that area was inspected and how often, she said that there was somebody in there every few days. But there was really no one designated to do an inspection of the facility. The regulations require that container storage areas be inspected weekly. Doesn't have to be documented, but they need to be inspected weekly. Okay? Again, this is information you may want to pass on to Kay. And then the last item I have here is also back in that original chemistry lab that I talked about that had the satellite container that wasn't labeled. There were numerous containers in a cabinet that a hazardous waste determination had not been made on, and they had been there for years. It sounds like in excess of 5 years, because that's how long Dan had been there, and he said they were there before him. As a generator of hazardous waste, you're required to make a waste determination on your waste as soon as it becomes a waste. It seems like this material has been there an awfully long time and no waste determination has been made. And to be very honest, if there are what is considered acutely hazardous waste in that area, you could actually be a large quantity generator, which is much more severe. The time limits decrease. You are required to have a lot more backup paperwork that you're not required to have as a small quantity. You can't hold waste this long without making a determination. Again, this is something you may have to impress upon Dan, but you're going to need to make waste determinations on this material. Those are the items I've noticed. Do you have any questions on any of those?
No, just like I said, was under the impression we were conditionally exempt.
Okay.
That's why I was running the operation.
Okay, like I say, you are not. From all the records that I reviewed and from the information I received from the people I talked to, it doesn't appear that you are even close to that anymore. You may have been at one time. Okay? You have 14 calendar days from today to respond to this notice of violation. If you disagree with any of these violations, you can plead your case in your response. Why you think that I am incorrect in my evaluation and why you are correct. Okay? If you agree with it, your response should be what you're doing to correct the violation so that it won't happen again. If for some reason you can't get all of this done in 14 days, you still need to respond stating what you've done and then the items you haven't done, how far you've gotten, and then give yourself a timeline as to when you'll be able to submit the rest of the material, such as the waste determinations. That may not be accomplished in 14 days because there are a lot of items underneath that cabinet, and you may not be able to get someone out here soon enough to be able to make waste determinations because they're, from what I understand from Dan, the labels are not indicative of what's in the container, so you're going to need someone out here that can really make determinations on them and not guess at them. Okay? I'm going to ask that you sign this notice of violation. I want you to know that signing it is not an admission of guilt. It is just acknowledgement of receipt. And then again, I will give you the original. Okay. And that basically is it for our inspection. Do you have any questions for any of us before we leave?
Well, you know, and we've talked about this, but I thought we were conditionally exempt. You know, as you can see, we're trying to put our best foot forward and do the right thing. And matter of fact, I think that drum's labeled now. We just overlooked it and it's done. And
I understand.
And I just, how do we look as far as, you know, as a university, and have you been to any other universities, and how do we compare?
I've been to numerous universities, but I don't like to compare universities. It's not fair. Some universities do, you know, may not generate as much waste and still may not do a good job, but I don't like to compare universities. I look at you each individually and rate you on your own merits. But I want to thank you for giving us your time and finding the people that we needed to talk to. We appreciate that. It made our job a lot easier. If you have any questions down the line, you have our cards. Please feel free to give us a call. I would much rather help you out with a question and steer you in the right direction than have you do something you may think is correct and find out later that it wasn't. But again, I want to thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, please give us a call.
Thanks a lot.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Thank you. Have a good day.